Hi, I'm your host Danny, and this is English Plus Podcast. Have you ever been frustrated with the way you use your prepositions with adjectives? Or is it frustrated at? Or maybe frustrated on? Maybe you're not that good in doing that. Or is it good in, or good at, or good with? Which one is it? You see, it's kind of confusing. I'm not gonna promise that I'm going to solve all these problems because we don't have a lot of rules when it comes to prepositions used with adjectives. We have some common sense that we're going to talk about in this episode, and we have some common adjective preposition combinations that we will talk about. I'm not gonna promise you that I'm going to solve all the problems that have to do with adjectives and prepositions, but I'm going to solve a lot of them, and I'm going to talk about some of the most common combinations. So if you're interested, join me in this new grammar episode from English Plus Podcast. Welcome to a new episode from English Plus Podcast, where you get to learn English, business, culture, literature, and a lot more. Two things to remember: that you will always find extra practice on our website, EnglishPlusPodcast.com, and don't forget to support us on Patreon to help us keep our content free forever. And now, this is your host, Danny, and let's enjoy a new episode from English Plus Podcast. So we're going to talk about common adjective preposition combinations. Now, before we start, let me just be clear about this. Of course, I'm not going to be able to cover all the adjectives you may encounter, but I'm going to talk about some of the most common, and we're going to talk about some combinations that you can build on. So some of the adjectives here, you can remember the way we use them and use the same way with some other adjectives with similar meaning. That works. So we're not just going to talk about when you see this adjective, use this preposition with it. No, we're going to talk about the meanings, because obviously a lot of the times the meaning you have in mind dictates which preposition you should use. So let's start with our very first example, and that is when we say nice of you or when we say nice to. So should we say nice of or nice to? Well, it's not only nice. You can use that with nice, kind, good, generous, polite, honest, stupid, silly, etc. We use of with it when you say it's nice of somebody to do something. So, it's kind of you to do this. It was stupid of him to do that. It was honest of her to do this. It was generous of them to do that. Here, when you want to talk about generous of somebody to do something, you see, so we use here of, because we're talking about something a person did and it was nice of him or her. It was good of her, it was kind of them, etc. For example, we say thank you. It was very nice of you to help me. And here, by the way, when we say of, we mean OF. It's not OFF. If it is OFF, it's off. We pronounce it with the F. If it is only one F, it is pronounced of. So that is a pronunciation tip you should keep in mind. Again, thank you. It was very nice of you to help me. Or, it was stupid of me to go out without a coat in such cold weather. It was stupid of me to do something. And we use these expressions all the time. And remember, now we talked about, yes, nice, kind, good, generous, polite, honest, stupid, silly, but I can't list all the adjectives, but you can think of other adjectives that fit this category or fit this meaning that you have here, and you can build on that knowledge. You can use of to talk about other adjectives as well, or you can use of with other adjectives. That's what I mean. But we also use the preposition to with adjectives like that, right? But that is when we want to talk about not it is nice of somebody to do something, but when we say it is nice to somebody. Like when we say, they have always been very nice to me, not with me. You don't say, you are nice with me. You say, you are nice to me. Why were you so unfriendly to Lucy? Not with Lucy, to Lucy. You are nice, kind, good, generous, polite, rude, friendly, cruel, etc. to somebody. So remember that. If you're talking about the same adjectives, but you want to talk about this adjective to somebody, it's not of, it's not with somebody, it's to somebody. That is about nice of you or nice to me. And now let's move on to talk about another combination that's some adjectives with about or with. Now, if you say angry, annoyed, furious, upset, which preposition do you think you should choose with that? About or with? Well, the answer is either. You can use either of them based on the meaning you have. Because remember, one more time, grammar, my friends, it's all about the meaning. Grammar is just a tool. I know prepositions can be a little bit arbitrary at times so that you just use it without knowing why. And I agree, it is like that. But some cases, and especially the ones that we're talking about today, we have to pay attention to the meaning as well. It's not just like, with angry, use this, with annoyed, use that. No, it doesn't work this way. You have to understand the difference between using this preposition or that preposition. So, again, what we say, should we say angry about something or angry with something? Well, obviously, we can use about if we want to talk about something. You can be angry about something. You can be annoyed about something, furious, upset about something. But if you want to talk about people, you use with, and you use for as well. Let me give you an example how. Are you annoyed with me for being late? Or you can simply say, are you annoyed with me? You don't have to continue. But if you want to continue, you can say, are you annoyed with me for being late? But if you want to talk about something, you use about. For example, there's no point in getting angry about things that don't matter. About things, not with things. You don't get angry with something. You get angry about something. And so here, the example again, there's no point in getting angry about things that don't matter. Or, are you annoyed with me for being late? So you see, you can be angry, annoyed, furious, or upset about something, but with somebody for doing something. You can also say excited, worried, nervous, happy about something. You can say, for example, are you nervous about the exam? Not with the exam, about the exam. However, when you want to use pleased, satisfied, happy, delighted, or disappointed, you use with something you get or experience. So unfortunately, it's not always the same, but we're trying to cover as many common adjectives as possible. So here, pleased, satisfied, happy, delighted, or disappointed with something you get or experience. Let me give you a couple of examples. They were delighted with the present I gave them. Or, were you happy with your exam results? Not were you happy about your exam results. Happy with, delighted with, satisfied with, disappointed with something you get or experience. So, that is our second set of adjectives with about or with. Now let's move on to talk about some adjectives with at, by, with, and of. So let's start with surprised, shocked, amazed, astonished, upset. What do you think we should use if we want to talk about something? Surprised at something or surprised by something? Or maybe both. And this is actually the answer. You can be surprised at something or surprised by something. Shocked at or by. Amazed at or by something. Astonished, upset at something or by something. For example, you can say everybody was surprised at the news or everybody was surprised by the news. Both are fine. I hope you weren't shocked by what I said or at what I said. And both are fine in this case. Now, what about impressed? When you want to say impressed, are you impressed with somebody or something? Or are you impressed by somebody or something? Actually, again, it's both. You can say, I'm very impressed with her English. It's very good. Or you can say, I'm very impressed by her English. It's very good. So you can be impressed with or by. What about fed up or bored? Do you say with or by? Well, actually, for fed up and bored, you use with. You don't use by. You say, for example, I don't enjoy my job anymore. I'm fed up with it. I'm bored with it, not by it. So here again, yes, it works in most cases when you have adjectives of similar meaning. They should take the same preposition, but it's not always the case. You have to remember that. So here, we can go like, yeah, fed up or bored. It's just like impressed and surprised in the general meaning, or the general gist of the adjective has kind of the same meaning, but it doesn't take the same preposition. Well, it does. It takes with, but it doesn't take by. So we can say surprised, shocked, amazed, astonished, upset at or by something. We can say impressed with or by somebody or something, but we say fed up or bored with something, not by. And we say tired, we say tired of something, not tired with or by something. For example, we say, come on, let's go. I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of waiting. Not I'm tired with waiting, not I'm tired by waiting. I'm tired of waiting. All right, that's about this set of adjectives. Let's talk about a very important word that causes some of the most common mistakes that I hear every day in English, and that is the adjective sorry. Let's talk about that next. So, sorry, of course, a lot of people use this word every day. Doesn't always have to do because of something you did, maybe about another thing, but which preposition should you choose? When you talk about a situation or something that happened, maybe you didn't do it, but you want to say you're sorry. You say you're sorry about it or you're sorry for it. Which one should it be? Well, if you want to be sorry and you want to talk about a situation or something that happened, the preposition to use is about. I'm sorry about the mess. I'll clear it up later. Sorry about last night. Or that means sorry about something that happened last night. Maybe it's not my fault, but you can be sorry about things, even if this thing or whatever it is was not your fault. You can be sorry about what happened. I'm sorry about what happened. I'm sorry about the mess. I'm sorry about the incident or the accident or whatever. So you're sorry about a situation or something that happened. So that is a general thing. But if you want to use sorry for something you did or caused, you can use about or for. You can use for. You can say, I'm sorry for shouting at you yesterday. Or you can say sorry about shouting at you yesterday. You can say sorry for the delay or sorry about the delay. And by the way, you can also use I'm sorry I did something. You don't use prepositions at all. You can say I'm sorry I shouted at you yesterday. All right? You don't have to say I'm sorry about or I'm sorry for. You can say I'm sorry for shouting at you yesterday or I'm sorry I shouted at you yesterday. But here, if it is something of your own making, you can use for or about. But if in doubt, use about because it works both ways for a general situation or for a situation that you caused. And now, when we want to talk about somebody in a bad situation, you don't use about. When you want to say, for example, I feel sorry or I am sorry for somebody in a bad situation, we use for. We don't say about a person. You say, I feel sorry for Mark. He's had a lot of bad luck. Not I feel sorry about Mark. That's a common mistake. I hear people say it all the time. I'm sorry about him. He's in terrible condition. No, you're not sorry about this person. You're sorry for this person. Remember that. You're sorry for this person. So here, about and for with sorry can be confusing, but let me just recap. You can be sorry about a situation or something that happened in general. If it is something you did or caused, you can use both, for or about. And if you want to talk about somebody in a bad situation, you only use for, not about. And now with that being said, let's talk about some common adjectives we use with a preposition of. And there are many, a lot of adjectives we use with a preposition of. So let's talk about that next. Alright, no matter how much I try to make sense of the prepositions used with adjectives, sometimes it's just we use this preposition with this adjective. There is no explanation. It's just arbitrary. We use adjectives with of, like the ones I'm going to talk about now. And I'm sorry, it is not possible that I can give you explanations every time. Sometimes you just have to learn or you just have to remember that with these adjectives, we use this preposition. And this is the case. We're going to talk about the preposition of, which is one of the most important prepositions because we use it a lot. And remember, I said it at the beginning of the episode, of means OF. If it is OFF, it is off. So here, when you only have one F, you pronounce it like a V, of. All right, so let's take a look at the first batch. You can say, I'm afraid, scared, frightened, terrified of something or someone. You can say, are you afraid of spiders? Yes, I'm terrified of them. Of course, you can use afraid of spiders or afraid of somebody as well. You can be afraid of people. Not only of spiders or animals, you can be afraid of people as well. But here, afraid, scared, frightened, or terrified of. Now let's talk about another group. You can be fond, proud, ashamed, jealous, or envious of other people. You can say, for example, why is he so jealous of other people? So you can use that with jealous, but remember, you can use that with others as well. Fond, you can be fond of somebody, you love that person so much. You can be proud of somebody because this person, he or she did a great thing and you're so happy about that. You'll feel proud of this person. Or the opposite, you can be ashamed of somebody or jealous of somebody because this person is better, or you can be envious of somebody, and there's a very negative thing. Because when you're jealous of somebody, maybe you will try to do the same thing they did, and you will try to be as good as they are. But when you are envious of somebody, you don't want to do anything, but you don't want them to get anything as well. You're envious of them. You want them to lose the good things they have, and you don't want to make any effort to be like them. Anyway, this is just the difference between jealous and envious. But that aside, remember, you can be fond of, proud of, ashamed of, jealous of, or envious of. But that's not everything. You can also be suspicious, critical, or tolerant of. Let me give you an example. They didn't trust me. They were suspicious of my motives. They were suspicious of. So you can be suspicious of, critical of, or tolerant of. You can be aware or conscious of. For example, did you know he was married? No, I wasn't aware of that. You can use aware or conscious with of. Or you can use capable or incapable of. For example, I'm sure you are capable of doing the job well. I'm sure you're capable, or maybe you're incapable. Maybe it's just the opposite, but the preposition to go with this adjective is of. Capable of doing something or incapable of doing something. What about full or short? Of course, we can use of as well. For example, Amy is a very active person. She's always full of energy, not with, full of energy. Or I'm a bit short of money. And here, you need to understand the meaning of short of. What is the meaning of short of? That means I don't have enough. I need more. I'm a bit short of money. Can you lend me some? Well, because you might want to use that a lot or not. I don't use it. I try not to use it as much as I can, but I'm a bit short of money. If you want to use it, use of with it. All right? Short of money. Can you lend me some? Or you can say typical of. For example, he's late again. It's typical of him to keep everybody waiting. Or you can use certain or sure of. But with certain or sure, you can say of or about if you want. For example, I think she's arriving this evening, but I'm not sure of that. Or you can say, I'm not sure about that. That's fine. So this was a group of common adjectives we used with the very common preposition of. Now let's move on to talk about the very last point of this episode, and we will talk about some other common adjectives with other prepositions: at, to, from, in, on, with, and for. So first, let's talk about good, bad, brilliant, better, or hopeless. What do you say? I'm not very good repairing things. Which one should you choose, do you think? Should you say I'm not very good in repairing things, or for or with repairing things? Maybe for it's a little bit kind of awkward or strange, but what about good in doing something or good with doing something? Can you do that? Well, no, you should use at. I'm not very good at repairing things. Not in, not with. All right? You say good, bad, brilliant, better, hopeless, etc. at doing something. Like when we said, I'm not very good at repairing things. What about married and engaged? Now, if you just want to say I'm married, that's period. Married, period. You don't have to use any prepositions. But what if you want to talk about the person you are married to? You don't say with, and that is a common mistake here. You don't say Louise is married with an American. No, you say Louise is married to an American. Now, pay attention. You say Louise is married with 3 children. That, when you use it, it is correct, but the meaning is totally different. You're not talking about who she is married to. You're not talking about her husband. You're talking about she is married, Louise is married with 3 children. That means she is married and has 3 children. The meaning is totally different. Because I know, yeah, we hear it in different contexts. That's right. And you're going to hear most of the other adjectives I gave you in different contexts. I'm just talking about the common uses of these adjectives with which prepositions. Remember, at the beginning of this episode, I was clear about it. I was honest. I didn't say I'm going to cover everything because it's impossible. I'm going to cover some of the common adjective preposition combinations, but not everything. Of course, there's going to be some other examples, some other meanings. If you use this preposition, it's going to be a different meaning. But that being said, I hope I helped clear some of the confusion when it comes to using prepositions with adjectives. So, again, you are married, you are engaged to a person, but if you say you are married with children, that means you have children. Not you are married to the children. I mean, that's kind of weird to say that. You are married to a child. What does that mean? I mean, that happened. I just talked about Cleopatra last week, and Cleopatra was married to her brother, who was a child, who was just 12 years old. So, yeah, it works this way, but in modern times, thankfully, we don't have that anymore, or at least in most cases, we don't have that. We don't hear of that because that's kind of just strange and sad. Anyway, when you say somebody is married with children, that means this person is married to somebody, but this person has children. Okay, so that is the difference. Now, let's move on to another adjective, and that is similar. Similar to. We say, your handwriting is similar to mine, not similar of mine, not similar with mine, it's similar to. What about different? Different from or different to? And by the way, here, I hear a lot of people use different than because they kind of use it like the comparative form. They say, for example, when you say better than, different than. No, don't ever use different than, please. Different from. The film was different from what I'd expected. Or you can say different to what I'd expected. To is also possible. But to be honest, from is used more. But to is again possible, but never then. Never THAN, never. Use then with different. The film was different from what I'd expected. What about interested? Are you interested in art? Are you interested in grammar? Are you interested in English? In, not at, not of, not with, in. And now for the next one. Keen on. We stayed at home. Chris wasn't keen on going out. Keen on. Dependent on. We say, I don't want to be dependent on anybody. I don't want to be dependent on anybody. I want to be independent. But pay attention, if you want to use independent with a preposition, you use independent of. We say dependent on, but we say independent of. If you want to say, I am independent of everybody. Well, I'm not going to say that this is common. We usually say independent, period. But if you want to use a preposition with independent, it's not on like the one we use with dependent. Dependent, we say on. I don't want to be dependent on anybody. But if you want to use independent and you want to add a preposition after it, remember that you use of in this case. Now, the next one, crowded. If you want to talk about a place that is crowded with people, you use with. The streets were crowded with tourists. Or you can say full of tourists, but not vice versa. You don't say the streets were crowded of tourists and full with tourists. No, crowded with tourists, but full of tourists. Okay, so if you want to use full, that's also fine. It has the same meaning, but remember, use full of, not full with, crowded with. And now, for the next one, famous. We use that adjective a lot when we want to talk about a place that is famous for something, or a person who is famous for something. We use for. Like when you say, for example, the Italian city of Florence is famous for its art treasures. Famous for something. And finally, we come to the very last adjective I picked for today's episode, and that is responsible. You can also be responsible for. Who was responsible for all that noise last night? Responsible for. And with that, we come to the end of this episode. I hope you found the information I shared with you interesting and, of course, more importantly than interesting, useful and beneficial. And I know it's not that easy to remember all these prepositions, and that's why I added some practice on our website, EnglishPlusPodcast.com. You can find the link in the description. Take the link, go to the custom post we created for this episode, and you will find everything we talked about, and of course, you will find practice. You can practice the things you've learned so that you don't forget forget them soon. Because trust me, if you don't practice, you're going to forget that very soon. So go to our website, go to EnglishPlusPodcast.com, specifically to the post created for this episode, and practice the things we've learned so that you can make them permanent in your grammar tool bank. Now, before I leave you, I will also have to remind you that you can support English Plus by becoming a patron on Patreon. Support us on Patreon and help us continue with the content that we're creating. We are creating one episode every day, and we are counting on your support. Because as you can notice, we're not adding any advertisements or anything. We're just counting on our patrons. We don't want to be dependent on ads. We want to be independent of ads, all right? We just talked about dependent and independent. We want to be dependent on you, on patrons. That's what we want to be dependent on. Now, enough begging for one episode. That being said, this is your host, Danny. I would like to thank you very much for listening to another episode from English Plus Podcast. I will see you next time.